I'm Tara Mergener. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, moving forward, the cause to canonize Venerable Fulton Sheen gets some big news from the Vatican. What happens now? Jimmy Lai sentenced as China throws the book at the pro-democracy advocate. We talked to his daughter about the news.
Here at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., President Donald Trump's Religious Liberty Commission meeting today. Some powerful testimony to share with you. I'm White House correspondent Owen Jensen, and I'll have that story.
Plus, fighting for freedom, how Pope Leo is helping to shine a light on the victims of human trafficking. These stories and more right now.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
And thank you for being with us on the feast day of Saint Apollonia, Virgin and Martyr of Alexandria, Egypt. Our top story tonight, the cause for the venerable servant of God, Fulton Sheen, is proceeding to beatification. The news comes from the Diocese of Peoria, who announced that the Vatican approved the next steps. Sheen was a pioneer in broadcasting the good news of the faith on television and radio. He showed a special talent of communication for the truths of Catholicism to anyone who would tune in, and there are many Catholics today who still find inspiration in his words. As of right now, details concerning the date of the beatification are still being finalized. All right, joining us now is Monsignor Roger Landry, National Director of the Pontifical Mission Societies in the United States. Monsignor Landry, thank you so much for joining us. First, the cause of Fulton Sheen has been closely watched by many Catholics in America. How does it feel that the Vatican has cleared the way for beatification?
It's the answer to a lot of prayers that we've had, especially in this 250th anniversary of the birth of our country, that we would be able to celebrate the faith of a Catholic being lifted to the altars, but not just a Catholic, but a Catholic who really loved our country, who worked so much to bring people together in our country through his pioneering work on radio and on television, through his books, through his preaching, through his travels, and then to bring the whole world together through American Catholic generosity through his 16 years as the National Director of the Society of the Propagation of the Faith in the U.S. It's just extraordinary news, and we're grateful for one Illinoisan Catholic, Pope Leo XIV, for opening the door for the beatification of his fellow Illinois native to become one of the first American priests to be lifted to the altar after Father Michael McGivney and Blessed Stanley Rother.
Now, in a piece you wrote just today for the National Catholic Register, you said his homilies and sermons would pack churches and even stadiums. What made him such an effective communicator?
A few things. First, he understood people and he understood the issues that they were thinking about. Second, he really knew Jesus Christ and shared Jesus's desire for them to come to live the truth. And then third, he was possessed with the Holy Spirit's special tongue of fire. He was so eloquent in the ways that he was able, standing one foot in the daily newspaper and the second foot in the fonts of the faith, to be able to articulate not only what we believe, but why we believe with infectious enthusiasm, so that so many people wanted not just to know what he was saying, but to live that word.
In recent years, Fulton Sheen has been rediscovered, interestingly, by a new generation on YouTube. So what do you think makes him so attractive to these young Catholics?
I think he symbolizes what they're hoping their bishops and their priests always show: the type of confidence, unabashed faith in the gospel, so that they'll use whatever new means of communication we have to propose it and defend it against anybody who wants to challenge it. Fulton J. Sheen gives all Catholics today, not just yesterday, confidence in the truth of our faith, that we will put him on toe-to-toe, tete-a-tete with anybody, and that we're going to come out on the winning side. So Fulton J. Sheen continues to do that, and thanks be to God, he has inspired guys like Bishop Robert Barron, Father Mike Schmitz, and so many others to follow his game plan and use whatever technology God provides as a pulpit for us to share the most important news ever.
All right, Monsignor, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
We celebrate, Tara. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. In Hong Kong, media mogul, pro-democracy advocate and Catholic father Jimmy Lai has been sentenced to 20 years behind bars. This follows his conviction in December of what Chinese officials said were national security violations. For years, Lai was the publisher of the pro-democracy tabloid Apple Daily. He was first arrested in 2020 and has faced numerous charges under China's wide-reaching security law. Joining us now is Claire Lai, that is Jimmy's daughter. Claire, thank you so much for coming on today. This has got to be a very difficult time for your family, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we are heartbroken by the sentence. I mean, it's essentially a death sentence. I mean, even given his ill health and his age, he is 78, even half of that would have been a death sentence. But we're hopeful that now that the sentence is in, that we can move on to hopefully a political diplomatic solution for his release, and that hopefully our father will be back with us in the not too distant future.
Wow. I mean, when is the last time you spoke with your father, and what do you know about his condition?
The last time I saw my father was in summer. You know, I've watched as his health deteriorated over the last 5 years. Like, pre-existing conditions have just gotten worse, whether that be diabetes, his eyesight, or his hearing, and he's developed numerous new health conditions, like his heart issues. He has he gets heat rashes in summer. He has infections that last for months. He has back issues and waist issues. His nails are rotting and changing colors, and his teeth are rotting as well. So we are extremely worried, and just the conditions in which he's kept have also gotten worse. He doesn't have any access to natural sunlight. He doesn't have any access to fresh air, whether that be in his cell where the window is blocked, or when he's exercising for 1 hour a day where the entire field is blocked. And you know, we are just extremely worried about him.
I'm sure you are. Well, it sounds terrible. Were you expecting such a dramatic sentence?
You know, I think we recognized quite a while ago that the rule of law in Hong Kong no longer exists, and that the system is broken, and that is one of the reasons why, you know, you can't seek redress from a system that is broken, the same system that failed you, and that's why we have to look for another solution. And you know, there was part of me that was hopeful, and there was part of me that was a bit like, why do we have to wait for due process if we know the result already? But as you know, that will be done. It's on God's terms, not ours. So, you know, I pray that He continues to give my father the strength to persevere in faith, as he has for the last 5+ years.
When you last spoke with EWTN, you said the hope was going to come from outside of China. Who have you reached out to, and are you feeling hopeful at all at this point?
You know, we have gotten so much support since, actually, even just since this morning, from, you know, we have gotten support from the Foreign Secretary in the UK, various parliamentarians in the UK, and in the US, we have gotten support from both sides of the political aisle. The State Department put out, and Secretary of State Rubio put out a statement. It's a very strong statement in support of my father. President Trump has mentioned my father on multiple occasions, and him and his administration have a proven track record of freeing the unjustly detained. So I am hopeful, we are hopeful that our father is next. And we have just gotten a lot of support, whether that be from the UN or the EU or even Ireland recently. You know, we have gotten a huge amount of support, and we are extremely, extremely grateful and hope that it continues.
Absolutely. It sounds like there's, you know, always some hope, and I know a lot of people are watching the story closely, and an awful lot of people praying for you and your father as well.
Oh, well, I hope that they know that both our family and my father are sustained by their prayers, and you know, in their charity, I hope that they continue to do so.
Okay, Claire Lai, thanks for being with us. All the best.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And more reaction coming in tonight to Jimmy Lai's sentencing. Former U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, Sam Brownback, blasts the sentence as, quote, horrific. And the U.S. State Department calls it an unjust and tragic conclusion to this case. While at the same time calling for Lai's release, White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Tara, good evening to you. President Donald Trump's Religious Liberty Commission meeting at the Museum of the Bible here in the nation's capital, discussing the dangerous threat that anti-Semitism poses. And while there, before the event started, I met up with Sam Brownback and we discussed Jimmy Lai. Sam Brownback reacting to the sentencing of Jimmy Lai, 2 more decades behind bars, calling it essentially a life sentence.
What a travesty. It's a hostage taking more than anything. And if there was ever any idea that Hong Kong was semi-autonomous or supposed to be 2 systems, 1 country, part of China, that's gone. This completely tramples on religious freedom. It completely tramples on press freedoms.
With President Donald Trump heading to China in April to meet with President Xi, I asked Brownback if there's any opportunity now to get Lai out.
I think there is, and now is the time that the staffs would be negotiating what's going to come out of that trip in April. So Jimmy Lai ought to be at the top of that negotiating list, along with Pastor Ezra Jin, too, is another hostage situation. And the Chinese do this.
And the U.S. State Department rips the Lai sentence, writing, it shows the world that Beijing will go to extraordinary lengths to silence those who advocate fundamental freedoms in Hong Kong. And after enduring a trial lasting 2 years and detention in prison for more than 5, Mr. Lai and his family have suffered enough. The United States urges the authorities to grant Mr. Lai humanitarian parole. Meanwhile, President Trump's Religious Liberty Commission focusing on anti-Semitism and the pain, suffering, and harm it inflicts. Dr. Phil, a Religious Liberty Commission member, suggests defunding colleges and universities that allow anti-Semitism.
They may have the right to this speech, but we have the right to not pay them to do it. We have the right to not use public funds to pay people to single out a group and intimidate and harass them and call for their murder.
And Cabinet Secretary Scott Turner says the Trump administration is welcoming faith-based organizations back to the table.
Today marks exactly 1 year and 3 days that the president signed the Eradicate an Anti-Christian Bias executive order, which reverses the Biden administration's hostility towards believers.
Now back to Sam Brownback and the Jimmy Lai sentencing. Brownback also told me that Chinese leaders don't care if Jimmy Lai were to die in prison. He also told me they are at war with God and that they believe communism is supposed to rule the world. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
About 6 months ago, President Trump called on Texas Republicans to redraw its congressional maps and create 5 more Republican-friendly seats ahead of November's midterms. That sparked a wave of partisan gerrymandering. 6 states so far have passed new mid-decade congressional maps as Democrats and Republicans battle for control of the U.S. House in the next Congress.
We have the potential to add 5 seats, which could make or break the decision for whether or not the United States Congress falls to the radical leftist Marxist Democrats in the upcoming midterms. The stakes could never be higher.
In December, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Texas could use its Republican-favored congressional map.
They went into a back room with a Sharpie and started redrawing maps. And then it went to Ohio and Missouri and North Carolina and Florida. When you add all those up, you're watching a president of the United States who is trying to make this pain permanent.
Maryland is redrawing its maps to win the sole Republican seat, giving Democrats all 8 congressional districts. But the state Senate leader, a Democrat, is blocking the bill, despite urgings from Governor Moore. And in Virginia,
I think, unfortunately, it appears there may be a coordinated effort to try to interfere in the 26 midterms. They may even start to interfere prior to in the primaries, or in a state like mine where we may have a statewide referendum on redistricting.
But the effort has stalled. A state judge ruled against a map allowing Democrats to pick up 4 seats and a 10-to-1 advantage in the Virginia delegation. Democrats accuse Republicans of an illegal power grab.
Donald Trump launched this unprecedented effort to gerrymander congressional maps all across the country as part of his scheme to rig the midterm elections. We, as Democrats, plan to finish it.
But House Speaker Mike Johnson is confident Republicans will hold their thin majority.
We look forward, we're looking forward to a great election running on our record. And we're going to get all of our incumbents reelected, and we're going to add to the number here.
Not all states are conforming. Indiana's Republican legislature has refused to redraw its maps, and right now it's unclear who has the redistricting advantage. Congress is running out of time to avert a shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. The deadline is midnight Friday. Bipartisan talks are still at a standstill, and Democrats are out with a list of demands for ICE reforms in order to keep the government open. Those demands include a series of guardrails that they believe Congress should put on DHS. Those include rules restricting immigration agents from wearing masks, requiring them to wear body cameras and identification, and standardizing their uniforms to avoid the appearance of paramilitary policing. Democrats have also vowed not to support another short-term funding extension. Republicans are insisting most of those demands are non-starters. The shutdown would also stop funding for FEMA, TSA, and the Coast Guard. The Vatican has confirmed that the Pope will not be visiting the United States this year after speculation over a potential visit later on this year. Popes have customarily made trips to the United States, the most recent being Pope Francis's trip in 2015. Although no official trips have been announced, it is expected Pope Leo will make apostolic journeys to Africa, Spain, and Peru within the year. We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly. Faith in action. The Vatican led the world in prayer for the millions silenced by trafficking. And a new adventure in Catholic storytelling has arrived. Portugal has a new president. In a historic runoff, moderate socialist Antonio José Seguro secured a landslide victory with 66.8% of the vote. He defeated far-right challenger André Ventura, who, despite the loss, claimed a record 33.2% for his party. Che Seguro, who takes office on March 9th, now becomes a critical stabilizer for Prime Minister Luis Montenegro's fragile center-right minority government. With the power to dissolve parliament at his disposal, all eyes are on how this new cohabitation will navigate Portugal's political future. A historic political shift in Tokyo. Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi has secured a two-thirds supermajority in the lower house. She is now moving to fast-track a conservative agenda focused on military expansion and a delayed national budget. With no national elections scheduled until 2028, there is a clear path to implement her safe, strong, and prosperous vision for the country. Financial markets responded with a record-breaking rally. The Nikkei 225 surged nearly 4% to all-time highs as investors bet on the stability and aggressive fiscal stimulus promised by the new administration. Former girlfriend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, appeared before the House Oversight Committee for a virtual deposition today. But she didn't answer questions, instead opting to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights. Maxwell's attorney told lawmakers she could testify that neither President Trump nor former President Clinton were involved in wrongdoing with Epstein. Democrats suggested her statements may be an attempt to seek clemency. The deposition comes as the Justice Department has allowed Congress to review unredacted Epstein case files. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is battling to cling to power after new details emerged about the relationship between former UK ambassador to Washington Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein. Starmer never met Epstein and is not implicated in misconduct, but some lawmakers are calling for his resignation over his poor judgment in appointing Mandelson. Starmer fired Mandelson last September after email showed he maintained a friendship with Epstein following his 2008 conviction. This comes as British police investigate a new allegation involving former Prince Andrew. A report claims he shared confidential information with Epstein. Buckingham Palace says King Charles will support authorities reviewing the claims. In his letter on the 12th annual World Day Against Human Trafficking, Pope Leo reminded the faithful true peace begins with the recognition and protection of the God-given dignity of every person. In Rome, the International Anti-Trafficking Network, Talitha Kum, held a special prayer vigil to mark the important day. EW Vatican journalist Zufia Tuchubak has more.
The Vatican has always condemned the scourge of modern slavery. 12 years ago, Pope Francis established the World Day of Prayer and Awareness Against Human Trafficking, coinciding with the feast day of St. Josephine Bakhita, the patron saint of victims and survivors of human trafficking.
Her story is beautiful. It's a universal symbol of resilience and hope and freedom. I hope everybody will come to know more about St. Bakhita. That's why we're promoting this on February 8th, because her story, she was enslaved when she was 7 years old, but came alive and even become a Catholic sisters.
Now, Pope Leo XIV is taking up the same call to bring an end to human trafficking. Ahead of St. Josephine Bakhita's feast day, the Holy Father sent out a message to the faithful and emphasized that within the broken paradigm, women and children are the most impacted by this heinous trade. He also expressed his gratitude to all the people who are helping those who have been trafficked themselves, like Talitha Kum, an international organization run by religious sisters.
We saw and we still see the suffering of women because of the trafficking and exploitation. The Catholic sister cannot really look away. If there's exploitation, human trafficking is still going on, we cannot look away.
To remember and pray for those who have lost their freedom to the global human trafficking trade, Talitha Kum organized a candlelight prayer vigil at the Basilica of Santa Maria in Trastevere in Rome. Volunteers from all around the world came to show their support.
Once I see the reality of human trafficking, once I know that people are suffering out there and I cannot ignore, I need to do something. That's my motivation and keep working in Talitha Kum.
I decided to volunteer because I really saw this mission is very important, and we don't talk a lot about this mission, and so it has a strong message and we have to raise our voice.
Days of awareness like this one encourage those in the fight to continue their work and persevere when met with resistance. In Rome, Zofia Chubak for EWTN News Nightly.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Seeking Beauty.
Beauty to me is the language of the divine. It's a fingerprint of God.
Actor David Henry stars in a new EWTN series where he revisits cultures that have done beauty in magnificent ways. Pope Leo highlights how encountering Jesus brings true joy, flavor, and light to the dark parts of life, and that once someone who is poor in spirit, meek, simple of heart, and longing for justice meets Jesus, they cannot return to a life that is bland and dull.
La vita donata, l'amore che non fa rumore.
At the Sunday address, the Holy Father reflected on Jesus' words following the proclamation of the Beatitudes, explaining that Christ does not merely list them, but addresses those who put them into practice, saying that thanks to them, the earth is no longer the same and the world is no longer in darkness. He also cited the book of the prophets, pointing to the concrete ways of overcoming injustice, such as sharing bread with the hungry, sheltering the homeless, and clothing the naked, adding that concrete acts of openness and care for others help rekindle joy in life. Well, EWTN has a new adventure documentary hosted by actor David Henry called Seeking Beauty. It is the first original series from EWTN Studios. EWTN News reporter Francesca Fenton takes us behind the scenes at the premiere.
I can see how you can find God here.
That is a clip from Seeking Beauty, which premiered last month in Los Angeles. It is the first of its kind documentary series exploring culture, architecture, food, art, and music, all through a Catholic lens. The show's host, actor David Henry, believes a show like this is needed right now.
We live in such a fast-paced society. Things are moving at 24, 30 frames a second, and then AI is on the horizon. We're just getting inundated with so much. I think there's this deep craving for the human, for the real, for the natural. Beauty to me is the language of the divine. It's a fingerprint of God. And I think it'll continue to be more and more attractive the more society gets sucked into our devices. I think you're seeing a big rejection of that. So yeah, I think the timing is perfect for a show on beauty.
Seeking Beauty is the first original series from EWTN Studios, airing exclusively on the network's brand new streaming platform, EWTN+. Peter Gagnon, president of EWTN Studios, shared the idea behind the project.
And EWTN has always wanted to present beauty, right? So God is beautiful, right? His creation is beautiful. And there's many areas that God, you can see the divine in beauty. And so this series, when the concept was brought to us, fit in exactly with our new content strategy, because it leads the viewer in that journey along with David. It's not David telling you, it's you're journeying with David to find beauty.
CEO of EWTN, Michael Warsaw, explained how this ties into the network's overall vision.
For us, with all we do at EWTN, it's really about introducing people to the beauty, the truth, the goodness of our faith as Catholics. And so clearly this series about beauty that engages people with understanding and being exposed to really beauty in various forms, through the arts, through music, through culture, all of these things that really the church has always been a patron of through the centuries, and to bring that into this current moment so that people can really develop a deeper relationship with our Lord.
Francesca Fenton, EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tara Mergener. Good night and God bless.